All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Matt's here, so um, he'll be also presenting today. So want to welcome everybody to this month's Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspective on Drought and Hydrologic Conditions. My name is Chip Zimmer. I'm with the Kentucky Division of Water, and this is the March 2024 edition of the webinar, and it's hosted by the Kentucky State Climate Office, which is a division of the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky University. And we also work with several different partners, including UK Ag Weather Center and the Kentucky Division of Water. As always, this webinar, like I said, is presented by the Kentucky Climate Center in partnership with the National Integrated Drought Information System and the coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. The production and delivery of this webinar reflects contributions from many partners serving the needs of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and its people. Our next webinar is going to be April 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Standard Time, 1 p.m. Central Daylight Standard Time. This webinar is being recorded, and you can watch this webinar live stream on the Kentucky Climate Center's YouTube channel, or you can watch the webinar archive on that YouTube channel as well. And this is a snowy sunrise in Clark County, something that was pretty much a rarity this February, the snowfall, not the sunrises. Outline this week, or for this webinar, as always, we'll start with recent conditions. Then we're actually going to do a little different today. I didn't switch it up on the outline, but we're actually going to talk about outlooks first and then talk about impacts and have Matt come on and talk about some stuff at the Ag Weather Center. And then we'll wrap it up and have time for discussions and questions. So, and on the left, another picture from that snowy day. This is from Nicholas County. You can see it snowing pretty hard. It was a short-lived snowstorm for the areas that got it, but it did come down hard for a couple hours. And the other picture is Fulton County, which is what we're seeing a lot of right now, is a lot of greening up. Spring is really starting to kind of kick into gear a little earlier than normal, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. First off, looking at the past 7 days of precipitation, you can see it's been pretty wet in areas, especially the bluegrass area. You can see places 1.5 inches up to a little over 1 3/4 of an inch of rain. As you move down into southern and southeastern Kentucky, a little bit less, 3/4 of an inch to an inch of rain. Still a decent amount of rain for the past week. As we move out in West Kentucky, though, a lot drier out there, only 1/3 of an inch or so, except right there along the Mississippi River and up onto the Tennessee, or the, not Tennessee River, the Ohio River, where you see that there was a band of rain out there that over an inch of rain fell. Looking at 14 days, again, central Kentucky, especially right there along and around the I-64 corridor, very wet, 3-4 inches of precipitation. Still lesser amounts when you get further south into southern and eastern Kentucky, but still looking at 2 inches, 3 inches of precipitation. And then again, lighter amounts as you get out into western Kentucky, less than an inch over the past 2 weeks. And again, that area that saw the heavy rain this week, still most of that rainfall fell this week and not the prior week. So, but still over 2 inches of rain in that area. Looking at 30 days, you can see southern Kentucky and eastern Kentucky kind of catch up with central Kentucky in the rainfall department when you expand it out to 30 days. Widespread 4, 5, 6 inches of precipitation, and then lighter amounts basically from Cincinnati along the Ohio River all the way down into western Kentucky. Some places, especially out in western Kentucky, less than 2 inches of precipitation over the past 30 days. When we expand that out to 60 days, though, everybody is wet. January was a very wet month for the entire state, and that's reflected in these totals. Widespread 7 to 10 inches of precipitation over a 60-day period. Something we desperately needed coming off this was on the heels of the drought that we were having all last fall. I mean, expand up to 90 days. Some of these totals don't really change because December was dry. We're at the tail end of that drought, so you can see, especially out in Western Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, those totals really didn't change that much from the 60-day. So still looking at 9-10 inch precipitation. Some higher amounts when you get into southern and central Kentucky. Totals around 12 inches, 13 inches. Um, so like I said, for overall for February, the state finished on average just below normal. Average was we averaged 3.55 inches precipitation, which was 0.21 inches below normal. But it wasn't equally distributed. You can see, like I just showed you, on the 30-day, this is percent of normal. See places in central and eastern Kentucky, really 1.5 to 2 times as much precipitation as they normally see over the past 30 days. And then again, precipitation, especially out in from the purchase area up over by Henderson and Owensboro. This was the 58th wettest February on record out of 130 years, so just above the middle for wetness. But Paducah did record its second driest February with just under a half-inch of rain for the month. And this was after they had their fourth wettest January, where they saw almost 9.5 inches of precipitation. And so you look at the 60-day, you can see everybody was above normal for the month for January and February. And again, especially in central and in the parts of eastern Kentucky, well above normal. When we go out to 90 days, we get into the tail end of the drought in December. You can see you still have that core wetness over central and eastern Kentucky, but you can see the below normal precipitation showing back up again in western and also southern Kentucky. And I think it's really important to talk about the long-term dryness because, like I said, we've had a wet January and for some of us, a wet February. But looking back the past 2 years, we've had 4 different periods of dryness and drought. Both the spring of 2022 and 2023, and also the fall of 2022 and 2023 have both been dry. So when you look at the past 2 years as a whole, it's been drier more than it's been wet. And like take a look at July 2022, we had that big wet period. Now that actually is a little skewed from that was when we had the big floods in eastern Kentucky, and those totals were so high that it kind of skewed the state average. So it was still a wet month for the state in general, but not nearly that wet for a lot of areas. That was more isolated to southeastern Kentucky. But like I said, overall, it's been dry, and that all this dryness takes a toll. We've been wet. You look outside, it's muddy. Streams are flowing. Things look good, but things like the subsoil, groundwater, refilling of reservoirs, that takes time, and it takes a lot more precipitation than it takes to just get the surface soil muddied. So it's something that we need to continue to watch for, especially if we have this theme continuing and have a dry spring again. That could really put us in a bad situation moving into the summer and fall, because we won't have that subsoil moisture, groundwater moisture recharged and ready to go. Especially the groundwater levels. That's what is the driving force for base flows for streams and rivers in the summer and fall. So if you start out with those low, as long as it's raining, those streams and rivers are going to stay elevated. But the second we dry out, they're going to drop. to below normal levels, and that could put us in a bad situation again, especially if we have a drought going in this next summer and fall. Excuse me. So it's just something we need to watch out for. Hopefully this wet trend continues and spreads to Western Kentucky. We have a wet March, wet April into May, and that should really make things look a lot better. Um, Temperatures, like I said, snow is a rarity this February, and this is why. It was extremely warm. The state's average temperature was almost 45 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 7.2 degrees above normal. Um, Statewide, it was the fourth warmest February on record. If you look at some of these average temperature maps here, especially the one at the bottom right, that was the average maximum temperature for February. And you can see places that were 10, 11 degrees above normal for the month. And to find a February that was warmer than this, you have to go all the way back to last February when we were almost a higher degree warmer. And in fact, looking at the top four warmest Februarys, three of them have been in the past 7, 8 years. 2017 is the warmest on record, followed by 2023, and in fourth place 2024. So warm Februarys have been a something a little bit more common as of late. Looking at the drought monitor, like I said, we were in drought this fall. We've come out of it. Started to slide back into it a little bit. We do have D0 again in Western Kentucky. You see there's a lot of drought in the area though. Down in Tennessee, northern Mississippi, that's remnant of the summer fall drought down there. That was really the core of the drought that we were experiencing. So they are still recovering in that area. Also to our west, the Midwest, especially the upper Midwest, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, was really dealing with drought all last year. And that was kind of spread into Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and us. We were kind of in between two big droughts last year, and kind of with all that, that area is really recovering. In fact, the drought has actually been intensifying over Illinois and Missouri as of late. So that's something to keep an eye on. Where there's still a lot of drought near us, so keep an eye on. Like I said, zooming in on Kentucky, you can see we do have that D0, and that's kind of the drier areas. Again, we did have a wet January, but again, with those long-term dryness in there, just hadn't quite recovered to the point they needed to, and now having a dry February, just something, they're not something to keep an eye on. They're not in drought. It's just normally dry. It's kind of like think of it as kind of like a drought watch, just like when you have severe thunderstorm watches, tornado watches, just something, hey, things are dry here. This could develop into drought if we don't get rain. So that's kind of what that's showing right now. And looking at the change map, you can see again, all the greens showing improvement. You can see a lot of improvement down south of us, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana. But then again, if you look out to the north and west, there's 1-2 class degradation in Missouri, Illinois, even into Indiana. So they're experiencing the same dryness. We've kind of been on the edge of the dry February that they've been experiencing. And again, looking at just at Kentucky, you can see the one category degradation in Western Kentucky that happened this week, and only a few weeks removed from losing D0 in southern and eastern Kentucky, which was the end of the fall drought. So we only got 2 or 3 weeks without D0 in the state, but hopefully this doesn't hang around very long. Excuse me. Looking at stream flows, for the most part, we're in pretty good shape. Some lower stream flows out in Western Kentucky, again, with that dryness we've seen. And you look at it 28 days, again, For the most part, stream flows look pretty good. A couple out in Western Kentucky, also the Louisville area. Um, I don't read into that too much. Those are urban streams, and those are gauges usually used for more for flash flooding. Being urban streams, a lot of impervious surfaces around there. They're very flashy streams. So really rainfall dependent. So when it comes to drought monitoring, if they're a hotspot airplay around them still green, kind of kind of disregard that a little bit just because of the nature of how those stream gauges operate and how the streams operate since they're been messed with urbanization a lot. Looking at soil moisture, top left is this soil moisture map, and you can see the whole state's still a little behind. We're still, again at the surface, everything's muddy, looks good. Subsurface is still needs a little bit more moisture. But we're not too far behind. If you look at where it's been dry this February out in Western Kentucky, a little bit more significant dryness in the soil moisture. And bottom right is Grace, which looks more at the groundwater. And you can see again the whole state a little dry still. More of a stronger signal there. Really crossed central Kentucky, south Bowling Green, south of Louisville. Probably still a little bit of an artifact of the drought in the fall there. Southern Kentucky was the kind of the hardest hit area, so I would say it's probably still kind of a hangover from that area there from the drought. So again, just highlighting the fact that we still need some more rain to catch everything back up before we move into the summer. And now looking at some mesonet soil moisture levels. Um, top left is Grace County, again, that's in the drier area. And you can see mid-January, they really saw improvement from all the rain in the wet January. And you can see in the past week or two, moisture levels start to slide back down again. So something to be watching out for. Meade County, up there along the Ohio River, drier area, but not as dry as Western Kentucky. You can see again the improvement in January, and really hasn't dropped back down yet. So that's good to see. And then Fayette County and Cumberland County down on the bottom, both in areas that have been wet since January. And you can see that they've shown improvement and have continued to remain high through February. So looking at storm reports for February, we did have a couple different systems come through. One on the 10th. And then last week we had 2 rounds of overnight early morning storms come through that did do a little damage. So you see lots of reports of thunderstorm damage, wind damage across, especially the northern half of the state. Also a little bit of hail and one tornado, which was in Henry County. And you see a picture from the Louisville National Weather Service showing that some of the damage from that EF1 tornado. See so much sheet metal wrapped around a tree. Looks like it's lost some limbs on top of it. Excuse me. And also thunderstorm damage. This is from Mercer County from a UK extension specialist. See some damage to a cattle structure there from thunderstorm winds and a couple cows that look like they might be a little unhappy with not having their cover. Looking at the ENSO outlook, we are in El Nino right now. But that is coming. It looks like that is going to come to an end as we move into spring. And now there's an increasing signal that we are going to jump back into La Nina as we move into the fall of 2024. So we just finished a three-year stretch of La Nina, went to a very strong El Nino, and now heading back into La Nina. So it's been quite a yo-yo effect down in the Southern Pacific Ocean. Looking at the QPF for the next 7 days. Going to have another system that's actually going to move in here tomorrow. It's going to bring some more rain. See, it's kind of splitting us. There's a southern branch of it, and then another one that's going to be cutting up towards the Great Lakes. But we still should see some decent precipitation, especially Western Kentucky's kind of closer to that core of where the heavier rain is going to be. So hopefully that can shift east a little bit, and they can get on some more of that significant precipitation. But again, rain is very welcome. So yeah, I know everything's muddy right now in places, but we do need it. So it's good to see. Um, Looking ahead, um, the 6 to 10 day outlooks, you see very high confidence of above normal temperatures. So the wet February, or not the wet February, the warm temperatures from February, it looked like they're going to continue into March. Also seeing we're in higher percentage chances for above normal precipitation, stronger signal down to in the deep south, and also out in the southern plains, but still extending somewhat lower chances, but still in the green shading for the state. Same thing for the 8 to 14 day outlook. Still showing above normal temperatures, a little bit more up into the northeast, but we're still in those warm colors, indicating above normal chances for warmer temperatures. And again, still in that green shading, signaling that there were higher chances for us being wetter than normal. The monthly outlook for March, again, the warmth, it's looking like it's going to continue, just kind of like the 8 to 14 day outlook, up in the New England area, extending down into the Ohio River Valley. And for precipitation, it looks like there's above normal chances south of us, extending into eastern Kentucky, and then also out in the west. And we're kind of in between in an area they really don't have a great signal for. So we could be above normal or below normal. But hopefully above. But looking good. At least we're not in the below normal categories like they are in the Great Lakes in Texas. So that's looking good, that hopefully we can continue having at least normal precipitation amounts in March. And looking at the seasonal outlook, again, showing us staying above, looking like a warm spring for us. And also we are in that wetter category, which is something, like I said, we want to see to help us continue to recover from the last year's drought. And looking at the monthly drought outlook, they are looking like they see some improvements, not only to the drought to the south of us, but also up out in Missouri. So they are showing that they're predicting those areas of drought to be removed, with drought remaining up in the northern plains and also down in the desert southwest. Significant wildfire potential for March. Eastern Kentucky is in the below normal category, which is good to see. Now, southern Missouri is in the above normal category. So being right across the river, Western Kentucky is not too far from that. So something to watch out for. Again, if things stay wet, that'll help prevent any fire. That'll help lessen the fire potential going forward through March. Oops. Try to get this to start here. All right. This is showing the progress of leaf out this spring. Like I said, it's been very warm February, which is leading to trees and to start to leaf out early. I know my maple trees in my backyard are completely bloomed out and ready. And you can see from this map, really the entire southern U.S. has been ahead of schedule, and you can see um, we're probably about 2 weeks ahead of schedule, according to this, for a lot of the states. Getting an early jump on spring, though being so early in the season, obviously there are chances still um, for cold and below freezing temperatures, snow, all that good stuff. And we've seen that several times over the past few years where we get these early jumps only for a hard freeze to come in April or something like that, and really hurt the agriculture and also just the landscaping and such. So something to keep in mind as we go through the spring, and fingers crossed we don't get a repeat of some of the past years where we've had damage to orchards, um, early planted crops, etc. And now I'm going to turn it over to Matt, and he's going to talk about egg impacts and some stuff they've been doing over at the Ag Weather Center.
Awesome. Thank you, Chip. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, we got a new microphone in here. But, looking at agriculture, we're looking a lot better than where we were at to end 2023. Of course, you had mentioned we were in that long-lasting drought, but we had a really wet January, February, not near as much, but still we're in a good place as we head into the start of the growing season here in 2024. Livestock guys are feeling better. That grass is really starting to green up and growing in spots here and there. One of the ways we can track growth, even development and crops, pests, whatever you name it, is by using growing degree day accumulations. I actually got the class right here in front of me, and we're actually going through this in right now in class. But anyways, I should have one of them come up and teach this slide. But anyways, we use temperature to relate to crop growth development, pest growth development. Anytime you see this line increase, that's when the average temperature for the day was more than the base temperature required for development. In this case, base 50, we use this for a lot of fruit trees to track growth and development. And again, anytime you see this line increase, you expect growth with that particular crop. Anytime you see the line go level, basically your average temperature is below that threshold for development. So you're not accumulating any growing degree days. And this is a look at growing degree day accumulations from January 1st through the end of March every year since 2017. 2017 and 2023, two extremely warm winters here in the Bluegrass State, and vegetation got started really early in the year. Now, it's a little hard to see, I guess. I should have changed the shade for 2024, but 2024 is there in that dark charcoalish gray color. And you can see it there on May 6th. This is valid for today. Thank you, Chip. But we're approaching those levels in 2017 and what we saw last year. So we're not too far behind in the way of development between those 2 years, but something different in 2024. And this is a big reason why Chip went ahead with the outlooks today. We got some very warm outlooks ahead. So we're going to see this charcoal gray line 2024 continue to go in the upward direction as opposed to 2017 and 2023 when we had a cold spell in the middle of March and you saw that line level out. So based on the forecast, based on the outlooks, we're going to be catching 2017, 2023 sometime this month. So again, it's really early in the year to see this amount of vegetation pop. You can look at the creeks going through the bluegrass right now. It's all really starting to green up. I got maple trees in my front yard that are going to bud burst. I saw red buds all over Lexington already blooming. Winter wheat, I haven't talked to the specialists yet, but again, as Chip said, this early in the season, the potential for a late frost and freeze could be very detrimental to the crop. So, Chip, if we can go to Bowling Green real quick. And Shad is telling us there in Letcher County, they have maples and elms blooming also. So this is a statewide event. And I think Chip showed that really good in that animation from the University of Arizona. Again, we're well ahead of schedule this year. And we do have some worry as we go in the next couple months because even though our climate tells us we're warming up, we can still have those downhill runs on the roller coaster. I hope we don't have another, May freeze like we did in, I believe it was 2021 that really decimated winter wheat and fruit trees that year. But April, very much in play for these hard freezes. I showed you Lexington. This is a look at Bowling Green growing degree day accumulations. Changed the color a little bit here. It's in a maroon color, but again, same sort of spot. We're still below 2017, 2023, 2018 there. Those are some of the warmest winters we've ever seen here in Kentucky. But again, all those had this line going flat lining through there. They had a very lengthy cold spell through much of the month of March, so they didn't accumulate a whole lot of growing degree days and in correlation development. And 2024 may be much different. So we'll see how those outlooks play out. They do show pretty high confidence, and we're going to see warmer temperatures the rest of this month, but we'll see what happens. So other than that, I mean, get ready for plant 2024. It'll be here before you know it. Moving on, Chip, can we go to the next slide?
I'm trying.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. So here in the Ag Weather Center, we got some grant funding. We got more support from a couple resources. One, the UK Land Grant Engagement Funding awarded. It was an awarded project through the UK Land Grant Engagement Funding and the Southeast Center for Agricultural Health and Injury Prevention. Between funding from those two, we've created a new app in the Ag Weather Center. We actually are just finishing up phase one. I wanted to go ahead and show it to you all. I know Shad, he was at the Emergency Preparedness Conference here in Lexington the past few days, so he got a firsthand look at this. But this is the result of a lot of team members on here. Dr. Carmen Agaritas, Dr. Youngwook Song, he's a computer programmer in the computer sciences department, and Dr. Sanderson, Donnie Stamper with SCAHIP up there, and then my coworker, Dr. Wong in the Ag Weather Center. Next slide, please. So we want to make a real simple app. This is the Apple version. Unfortunately, I'll get to in a second. Android, maybe another few days or so, but Apple is available on the iOS store now. Very simple navigation, 5 tabs down at the bottom. First tab showing your current and forecast weather conditions, forecast daily going over the next 7 days, hourly going over the next couple. But it picks up your GPS location, but you can also add up to 16 other locations across the state. So for me personally, I like to keep an eye on the research farms across the state. So I'll have Lexington, I'll have Princeton, I'll have Robinson Forest, you name it. And if they're ever under a tornado warning, a watch or whatnot, maybe a flood warning, I'll get alert straight to my phone and I can start looking at radar, seeing what's going on there. I got a link to my ag weather update. This will change in phase 2. We're going to be adding a lot of our ag tools and models to this. We're going to be doing a modernization of our website. Radar data, we are actually purchasing from a company. It's a very high resolution radar. Told my group, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. So you guys can be as much of a weather nerd as you want, add different layers, whether that's watch boxes, warning polygons. You can put storm tracks on here. You can look at cloud cover, you name it. So as much of a weather nerd you want to be, you do that. So another page on extension disaster preparedness and recovery. Again, this has been a big topic at our conference the past few days, just making sure UK Extension and just Kentuckians across the state are ready for the next disaster. Lastly, on this slide, I want to underline there on the right, no ads, no ads, no ads, no ads. I get tired of getting on certain weather apps and I see the forecast ad, current conditions ad, radar ad. Oh, you want to see hourly data? You got to pay $10. No, that's not working for extensions. So again, we got funding from various resources, making this free to all Kentuckians across the state. And you won't see an ad popping up for the local Walmart advertisement or something. So anyways, next slide, please. So lastly, on this phase one, this phone app, this is why I wanted to get it out to you guys as soon as possible. It does have the ability to send your phone push alerts for National Weather Service warnings and Storm Prediction Center watches. And a look over on the right, this is my wife's phone. She's an iPhone user. I'm an Android guy. But she got the alert back in January 12th at 7 a.m. in the morning. National Weather Service issued a wind advisory for our location in Scott County. So it went right to her phone after the National Weather Service issued that warning. But this is available across the United States. We're not alone here in the state of Kentucky and seeing all these natural disasters the past few years. In fact, I think I showed this to you guys maybe back in the January monthly webinar. But 2023 set the record for the most billion-dollar weather and climate-related disasters since 1980. So not just us in Kentucky. I know Texas right now, they're dealing with a major wildfire down that way. And it's, you know, it's going to take a lot for that situation to improve. I was just talking to a Texas cattle guy at the conference today. Over there in that Lubbock region, the wind doesn't stop. 20, 25 mile per hour wind is like a daily occurrence over there. And that's not good for the spread of these fires. Next slide, please. So if you got a second, and I'll show you guys this slide again here in a little bit, but this is the QR code to the app. I can probably, yeah, I will. After I get done presenting, I'll put the link in the chat box. But if you go to the App Store on your iPhone, just type in Kentucky Weather Alert. We've had enough downloads now. It's actually the first one that pops up. We were competing with the Weather Channel and so on and so forth, but it's up and running. Next slide. We'll go through these real quick. Phase two, we're starting to go into development with this. The goal is to make a county by county product, simplifying our website, modernizing the look of it, giving you a point ag forecast with climatological info, maybe over the past week or so, maybe past 30 days. I don't want to overload the user with information, but then incorporating some of those ag models and tools. Next slide. Phase three, emergency preparedness. This is a ways down the road, but the hope is we can do another county by county product. It hones into your location based on your GPS and gives you some emergency contact information just for that county. Gives you the preparedness materials, mitigation materials, so on and so forth, but make it more personalized per county. Maybe adding a communication aspect for county agents with UK, the university administration, so we can get help, figure out what resources the county needs very quick-like, and get to those spots in a quick manner. And I think that's about it, Chip. Maybe the next slide. Okay, well, we'll go through these real quick. Check for updates on my newsletter. I don't know if I'm going to get one out tonight or not. It's going to be close. If I don't get it out tonight, it'll go out Monday or Tuesday next week. But I'll keep updates on here when Android is available, so on and so forth. In the last slide. So Android, again, it's on our radar. See what I did there, guys? On our radar. So give me a week and hopefully it's out. And that's what I got, guys. The last slide will show you the QR code again. And I'll try and post those links down the chat box. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Matt. And you now have at least one more download because I just grabbed it. So it did work.
Good, good, good.
All right. So go ahead and wrap things up. Like we were talking about, February was a very warm month, and with above normal precipitation in the central and eastern part of the state, and below normal in the west and northern part of the state. Um, we didn't have much of a winter this February, with just one round of light snow, and that was really more across the bluegrass region on the 16th of February. Um, we are currently drought free, but we do have some abnormally dry conditions in Western Kentucky. And despite the recent wetness, we are still recovering from last year's drought. So just something we need to continue staying wet for going through the spring to completely recover. Um, and we, as we just talked about, the warm weather has led to early spring with leaf out, and some ag really starting to kick off a little earlier than normal. Um, El Nino is coming to an end, but we're going to likely be heading into a new La Nina. And we are looking at a warm March, and normal to above normal precipitation. It's looking like it's likely for the month. So also one last thing, don't forget to spring forward this weekend. I actually had the November webinar, so I had this exact screen this exact same slide for last time I did this, except it was going backwards for going into standard time. So now we Saturday night, Sunday, actually I guess Sunday morning, we will be going back to daylight savings time. Like I said, the beginning of the webinar, our next webinar is April 4th. At our normal time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jerry Brodsky, our state climatologist, or you can reach out to Matt Dixon or myself. And as always, please report drought impacts or wet impacts to the impact reporter, and that goes into the national drought impact database and viewer. Um, and that is all we have. So we'll open it up to questions in chat, and Matt has posted the link to the download for the App Store in the chat. And Keenan was talking about the elms and maples have been also blooming in Franklin County. So anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, then I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys for attending, and we will see you back here next month. Enjoy the warm weather.
Thanks, Chip.